Hello chess Neurons. In today's video, we'll take a closer look at the game 11 of the 2024 World Chess Championship being held in Singapore between Ding Liren and Gukesh. The match was tied at 5-5 coming into this game, and with only 4 games left, every game carries immense weight, and let's see how this crucial battle unfolded. So, Gukesh had white pieces in this game, and Ding was black. So Gukesh started with knight f3 and then Ding replied with d5. So this had happened in one of the earlier games of the match, and Gukesh had played g3, but this time he decided to deviate and play c4. So now there are quite a few replies that black has. Black can play c6, black can play e6. These are solid options, but Ding actually decided to play d4. So he pushes the pawn and he tries to take some space on the queen side. So then Gukesh played b4. Very interesting idea actually. And another strong Indian grandmaster, actually India's #1 rated player, Arjun Erigesi, has played this quite a good number of times and he has gotten good results with it. So Ding here replied with c5. So he's sacrificing a pawn. So capturing this is not that great option because black can play knight c6 and then can play e5, both pawns in the center. It's just a matter of time before this pawn will fall. So Gukesh did not accept that pawn and he played e3. He's like, you want my pawn? You can take it. So let's see what happens after d takes e3, f takes e3, c takes b4. So this is a pawn sacrifice line, but the thing what happens is that white gets this pawn in the center and then the bishop can be developed, and then this is theory, and then white can try to sacrifice. So white can try to exchange this b4 pawn, and then white can try to create some activity through the queen side as well. This pawn is in the center. There have been interesting games, quite imbalanced games. So and that's something that Gukesh was looking for. So for that reason, Ding actually did not accept that pawn sacrifice, and in fact he went into a deep thought of 40 minutes here. 40 minutes. That's quite significant because you get 2 hours for first 40 moves, and if you're thinking for 40 minutes on just move 4, that's a lot. And yeah, so he played knight f6 after that. Gukesh was still in his preparation and then he played a3. So this is not that common move as well, and Ding went into a deep thought of 22 minutes actually. So basically for the previous move and this move he thought for about an hour, and if you have to remember that just only 5 moves have happened and Gukesh is still in his preparation. So then he played e takes d4, c takes d4, h3, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, and queen c7. So still Gukesh is in his preparation because all these moves that happened, the total time that he has taken is just under a minute actually. All the moves that he has played so far. So here is where he went into a bit of a thought. He thought for about 6 minutes in this position, and then he played the move d3. So this is not the best move actually. And what might have happened is he might actually have mixed up his opening preparation, because if knight c6, so I was trying to check some games. I was also trying to check what might happen if different type of move order gets played, and then after knight c6 the best move is actually d3, and then in some cases if a5 happens then there is b5 because this knight will have to move, and it remains a bit complex, but things are a bit in white's favor. So what might have happened is after queen c7, so Gukesh, because we have to remember so many lines to prepare, so many things to do, so such mix-ups can happen, and then Gukesh played d3. But this is not the best move actually, because compared to that knight c6 line, and now Ding plays a5, so b5 doesn't come with a tempo, the knight is not on c6, and that can make significant difference. So what difference does it make? After b5, since the knight is not on c6, black saved a tempo, and black can play knight bd7. The difference here is that now black's knight will get on c5. It's such a strong square for the knight. And then it becomes difficult for Gukesh to create activity on the queen side to develop his pieces. So now the question is, instead of that, what should Gukesh have done? So let's try to understand that. So in this position, so after queen c7, the best move for Gukesh would have been actually to play c5. The idea is pretty simple. He wants to play bishop b5 check, so he can get this bishop out. Then he can play bishop b2, try to put some pressure. So basically he's trying to make a push on the queen side. And white has a more pleasant position. And please remember, so Gukesh has the time advantage as well, because Ding has spent more than an hour in this. So if c5 had been played, then he would have a more pleasant position. But yeah, he had played this move d3, most likely because of, as I mentioned earlier, mixing up the preparation. And so a5 happened, b5, knight bd7, and that knight got to actually c5. Now, this was actually Gukesh's time to go for a deep thought. So in this position, actually, he thought for more than an hour. Spent actually an hour on this position because it recognized that, wait, what is going on? Somewhere, somehow things are not as expected. The knight is getting on c5. I'm not getting that much activity. So that's why he spent an hour, extra time that he had, to try to figure things out. And then he played g3. He decides that, okay, let's just try to get the bishop out. Ding played knight c5. He continues with that bishop g2 idea. Then Ding plays knight fd7. The idea is to play knight e5. Put pressure on this, put pressure on this. So, but Gukesh is like, okay, I don't want to save the pawn for now. I'm going to make my king safe. I'm going to complete my development later, and then I'll see. So that's why he castled. Ding played knight e5 in this position. Then queen f4. So spinning this knight, and also this pawn is under pressure. So then Ding played rook d8, a very natural move. He's just improving the rook's position. He's just defending this pawn. Then Gukesh played rook d1, just defending this pawn, because if knight takes d3, then rook takes d3. And if knight takes d3, then of course there is queen takes c7. So now, in this position, see, it's really important that Ding should have kept things simple actually. So he should have just played in this position e6. So what's the plan? The plan is pretty simple. He wants to play bishop d6, just level the bishop, and then try to castle, and then put pressure. Now let's say in this, if Gukesh tries to play b6, so the idea is if queen takes b6, then something something like this, but no problem at all. There is this idea of queen d6, there is this idea of queen b8, and it's not that great position for white, because bishop d6 would come. Let's say Gukesh plays something like knight d2 instead of that, just bishop d6, queen takes d4, this pawn would fall. Just look at white's pieces. By the way, queen takes d7 is not possible because bishop e5. So that rook also gets defended. The queen will get under attack, and it will be a problem. So yeah, he could just give the d4 pawn and still keep significant activity. Let's say so instead of that, if he plays a4, he tries to get the bishop out or something like that through a3. No problem. Ding will still continue with this. So there's some calculation involved in this, but not too difficult for either of them to do rook d1 check, and this is just too much for Gukesh to handle. So just e6 and get the bishop out, and this is better position for Ding to be in. But he actually played g6 instead of playing e6. So no, he had an idea, but he actually underestimated the misplacement of the bishop there. And that gave Gukesh the opportunity to complicate the matter. That's what he wanted to do. So he played a4 in this position. Wait, what is a4? See, in this position, it's clear that his queenside pieces are not that active. He wants to do something with them. So he wants this bishop here because he recognized that Ding is planning to bring the bishop either here or maybe play h5 and bring the bishop here. So that bishop goes there. Then if bishop goes to a3, then he would be able to put more pressure on the queen side of Ding. So he played a4, a really strong move actually. And in the press conference, Ding admitted that he had not seen this idea of a4 or severely underestimated it. And after this, he felt extremely uncomfortable in the game. Now, let's see how the game continued. Ding played h5. He wants to play bishop h6 with a tempo. So then, Gukesh played b6. He's like, I can play bishop a3 later on. Let me just play this. So because of this, what happens is that he's trying to increase the pressure on the queen side. So, of course, Ding cannot take this pawn because queen takes e5. But then in some cases, what might happen is that he vacates this square as well for the rook, or maybe for the knight in some cases. So he's not in a rush. And in a way, he also stops black's potential ideas of playing b6 that would keep the queen side close. So yeah, now the position is getting complicated, and those lack of ideas that Gukesh had earlier in terms of his pieces and in terms of activity, that is not there. So now the game has become extremely double-edged. So Ding played queen d6. Then he played bishop a3. Gukesh improves the bishop's position. Ding played bishop h6. It's like, let's improve the bishop's position. So he played bishop takes e5. It's time to eliminate that active knight and then centralize the queen. That b7 pawn is under pressure. Then in this position, Ding actually played knight c6. Now what? So once again, improving the pieces must never stop. So in this position, he played knight a3. So a really instructive move, because he's not worried in this position about that b6 pawn. He's like, look at my centralized queen, look at that g2 bishop, look at that battery. And then if the knight joins in, and if Ding takes that b6 pawn, then he would be able to create some activity through the b file, through the rooks as well. So that's what he wanted, the piece activity. So, and in this position, Ding has about 18 minutes and Gukesh is about 20 minutes, and 21 moves have happened. So still, for Gukesh, 19 moves to go, and for Ding, since he has to play 20 moves to go before move 40. So since the piece placement is better for Gukesh, he can easily create activity on the queen side. So this is, practically speaking, really tough position for Ding to be in. Then let's see. So Ding played this move, rook d7. He's like, let's just try to defend that b7 pawn. So then Gukesh played knight c2. So what was his plan in this position? His plan is simple. He wants to move this rook, and then he wants to play rook b5 at some point. So then this would be defended. And then there are some ideas that there can be knight b4, so he's stopping it. But now how is he stopping that idea? Because if knight b4 gets played, then there is this very nice move, knight takes b4. And if queen takes b4, then queen e5, centralizing the queen, backing this. And in this position, say for example, if castle happens, no problem, queen b5. Because if the queens get exchanged, then this pawn will get weak, and then Gukesh can create this pass pawn. So that is bad. And let's say after knight takes b4, if a takes b4 happens, so Ding gets a pass pawn, but not a problem. Gukesh can play a5 and then a6 and this pass pawn and then this battery. That will be too much actually for him to handle. So that's why he played knight c2. He wanted to stop these knight b4 ideas, and he wanted to free up this rook so he can go rook b1, rook b5 here. Then Ding took this pawn. Gukesh is not worried. His pieces are way too active. He improves this rook's position with a tempo. Then queen c7 was played in this position. And in here, actually, so he played a really nice move. So first of all, rook b5, once again improving the rook's position, and then castle. This is the moment. This is actually a really nice moment. So we have to understand that see, Gukesh's pieces are active, but he wants to activate them further. He wants to increase the pressure. Look at, the queen is very active, bishop is very active, rook on b5 is very active, and there are two pieces of his that are not doing that much. That knight on c2 and that rook on d1. So of course he can plan to play rook d b1, and then he can plan to improve the rook, but he played a beautiful move in this position, and that puts a lot of practical pressure on Ding actually. So this is very important that, you know, Ding has less time. So if he's able to play the type of moves that not only puts pressure on Ding, but also it is unexpected that Ding might not have thought about, then it would put a lot of psychological pressure on Ding as well. So because he recognized that rook d b1 if he plays, it would, of course, improving the rook's position is good, but Ding might have anticipated it. So he played really nice move, knight a1. And when you have less time, when you are under so much pressure, and when you see moves like knight a1, that would be, wait, what is going on? My opponent can play now knight b3, and then knight can come to c5, such an active knight. Now what do I do? And these type of things actually, you know, it can stop you from sort of playing your best move, because psychologically also you are getting under a lot of pressure. Now in this position, the best idea for Ding would have been to give up the extra pawn and try to liquidate the position, try to exchange the pieces. So knight a7 would have been a better move. Rook takes b7, just exchange things off. Just bring the rook to b8, because if that bishop moves, then rook can come to b2, and if this, then e5. So still, it's a bit of an unpleasant position for black to be in, but with a queen and some other pieces having exchanged, so the pressure that was there with so many pieces at that time, it has been decreased, and Ding can try to defend. And we have seen in earlier games of the match, like how tenaciously Ding can defend. Yeah, so knight a7 would have been a better choice, but in this position he played rook b8. He's like, let's defend this. Gukesh continued with knight b3. Then Ding in this position played e6. Gukesh improved the knight's position, tempo. Then rook e7. Now he has once again an option of capturing this pawn and then capturing the knight, and he would get back the pawn and he would keep his activity on the queen side. But once again, he's like, Ding has less time in this position, and we should try to understand the situation. So there are still 13 more moves before they reach move 40, where they'll get 30 minutes of extra time. So in this, Ding had just 7 minutes and 41 seconds actually, and he has yet to make those 13 moves in 7 minutes and 41 seconds. So Gukesh had a bit more of time than him. So he was like, why play knight takes b7? So he would have better position after that. But once again, that strategy of his, let's keep more pieces. So if more pieces are there, then there are more chances of Ding getting under more pressure and then blundering stuff. So now he's like, okay, my knight got active. Now I'm going to get my rook active. So the pressure on black is increasing, and now in this position, so Ding should have played knight b4, just block this activity. There is knight takes b7, but then he can try to bring the bishop back, and once again, if knight takes a5, then there is rook b5 and queen a5 is happening. If rook a5, then there can be some rook takes b7 type of ideas. The position remains complex. Of course, Gukesh doesn't need to take those knight a5, rook a5. He could play something else as well. But the thing is that the position is still complex, and the game goes on. But still, with more active pieces of Gukesh and with less time Ding has, white would still be preferable. But yeah, objectively speaking, the game is still on. But yeah, we have to recognize that chess is a psychological game, and sometimes when you put a lot of pressure, then even the world champion can crack. And in this position, Ding blundered with queen c8. Now, Gukesh played something and the game is over. If you want to take a guess, then please pause the video and then you can try to see the move. So yeah, the move is queen takes e6. The game is actually over, because if b takes e6, rook takes b8, he will recover the queen and then he will end up a piece. And if queen takes e6, then also bishop takes e6, he's just up a piece. So a tremendous game by Gukesh. So he played that risky b4 idea, and then Ding thought for an hour actually in the opening, and then Gukesh actually mixed up his opening preparation a bit and then allowed Ding to make a comeback. And then Ding chose that wrong plan of activating the bishop on the other side, and then Gukesh pounced on that, and then he sacrificed the pawn. He kept his pieces active, he kept up the pressure, he did not exchange the pieces, and then pressure, and then Ding collapsed. Now Gukesh is actually leading the World Championship match. Only 3 games to go, and let's see how it unfolds. So, thanks everyone for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.